Have you ever wondered why some of history's greatest creators, innovators, and leaders seem to possess an almost supernatural drive? What if I told you that the very same energy that draws us to physical intimacy could be the wellspring of human greatness? Welcome to a journey through one of Carl Jung's most profound yet rarely discussed concepts, the transformation of libidinal energy into creative force and lasting legacy. This is not merely about sexuality in its common understanding. It's about the primal life energy that Jung identified as the foundation of our psychological development and creative potential. The brilliant Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung observed something fascinating about human nature, that our sexual energy, our libido, is not simply a drive for reproduction but a manifestation of life force itself. In the depths of the collective unconscious, Jung discovered that this energy could be channeled, transmuted, and elevated to create works of lasting significance. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you felt that surge of passion, that electric current of inspiration, only to dismiss it as something unrelated to your creative or professional pursuits? Jung would suggest that you've been ignoring one of the most powerful tools for transformation that exists within the human psyche. Throughout history, we find evidence of individuals who seem to understand this principle intuitively. The great artists of the Renaissance, the pioneering scientists of the modern era, the visionary leaders who changed the course of human events, many exhibited tremendous sexual vitality that manifested not merely in their personal lives but in their creative output. Jung's analytical psychology provides us with a framework to understand this phenomenon not as coincidence but as psychological alchemy, the transmutation of one form of psychic energy into another. This process, which Jung called sublimation, represents one of the highest achievements of psychological development. What makes this concept particularly fascinating is how deeply it contradicts modern society's fragmented view of human drives. We have been conditioned to compartmentalize our energy. Sexual impulses belong in one sphere, creative work in another, spiritual development in yet another. But Jung's holistic psychology challenges this artificial division. He recognized that the same libidinal energy that powers our most basic biological urges could, with proper understanding and direction, fuel our greatest accomplishments and spiritual insights. This isn't about repression or denial, quite the opposite. It's about recognizing the true nature and potential of this fundamental life force. As we explore this profound aspect of Jung's psychology together, I invite you to consider your own relationship with this primal energy. Have you been channeling it consciously, or has it remained an untapped reservoir within your unconscious? By the end of our journey today, you'll gain insight into how some of history's most remarkable figures transformed their passionate nature into enduring legacy, and more importantly, how you might begin to harness this same transformative power in your own life. The path from lust to legacy isn't about denying your nature. It's about embracing it fully and directing it toward its highest expression. Are you ready to discover what your deepest drives might create when properly understood and channeled? To truly understand Jung's conception of libido and its transformative potential, we must first free ourselves from the limited Freudian definition that dominated early psychoanalytic thought. While Sigmund Freud viewed libido primarily as sexual energy in the conventional sense, Jung expanded this concept dramatically, seeing it as the totality of psychic energy that animates human life. In his groundbreaking work, Symbols of Transformation, Jung wrote that libido represents the energy that manifests itself in the life process and is perceived subjectively as striving and desire. This broader understanding transforms our conception of sexual energy from something merely reproductive to something fundamentally creative, a cosmic force flowing through us that seeks expression in myriad forms. This expanded view of libido as life force aligns remarkably with ancient wisdom traditions across cultures. The Taoist concept of qi, the Hindu understanding of prana, and the Polynesian idea of mana all point to a universal energy that flows through all living things. Jung, with his extensive study of world mythologies and spiritual systems, recognized these parallels and incorporated them into his psychological framework. He observed that across human history, cultures had developed symbolic languages and practices for working with this energy, whether they called it Kundalini, Holy Spirit, or vital force. The common thread was clear. This energy could be directed upward from its basic biological expression toward higher purposes. Jung's concept of psychic energy operates according to certain principles, chief among them being the conservation of energy and the principle of equivalence. Just as physical energy cannot be created or destroyed, but only changed in form, Jung proposed that psychic energy operates similarly. When libidinal energy is not expressed in one area of life, it does not simply disappear. It seeks another channel. This explains why periods of sexual abstinence throughout history have often coincided with tremendous artistic output or spiritual insight. The energy remains constant. Only its manifestation changes. This transformation doesn't happen automatically. It requires conscious intention and psychological development. The process of transforming libidinal energy into creative or spiritual force involves what Jung called the transcendent function, the psyche's ability to unite opposing forces within itself to create something new. In this case, the raw, instinctual energy of sexuality must be recognized, honored, and then consciously directed toward higher aims. Jung described this as neither repression, which leads to neurosis, nor unbridled expression, which keeps the energy at its most basic level, but rather a third path, a conscious transformation that preserves the vital power of the original impulse while elevating its expression. This alchemical process requires developing a relationship with one's unconscious and integrating previously repressed or rejected aspects of oneself. The key to this transformation lies in understanding the symbolic nature of libido. Jung observed that sexual energy naturally expresses itself through symbols, images, dreams, fantasies, and creative impulses that emerge from the unconscious. These symbols are not merely representations. They are transformers of energy. When we engage seriously with the symbolic content of our unconscious, through dreams, active imagination, creative work, or other means, we provide channels through which libidinal energy can flow and transform. This explains why many great creative works contain powerful sexual symbolism, not as mere content but as evidence of the psychological process that generated them. The creative act itself becomes a vessel for transformed libidinal energy. History provides us with remarkable examples of individuals who seem to intuitively understand and apply this principle of energy transformation. Consider the case of Nikola Tesla, the brilliant inventor who gave us alternating current and numerous other innovations that shaped the modern world. Tesla deliberately chose sexual abstinence, believing that his creative powers were directly connected to his conservation of sexual energy. He once stated, "I do not think you can name many great inventions that have been made by married men." While we might question his conclusion about marriage, his intuitive understanding of the connection between sexual energy and creative output aligns perfectly with Jung's conception of libidinal transformation. Similarly, many of history's great artists exhibited an unmistakable correlation between their passionate nature and their creative genius. Pablo Picasso, whose sexual vitality was legendary, channeled that same intensity into his artistic innovation, revolutionizing Western art multiple times throughout his long career. His contemporary, the sculptor Auguste Rodin, created works of such sensual power that they still move viewers profoundly more than a century later. Jung would view their artistic output not as separate from their sexual nature, but as a higher expression of the same fundamental energy. The passion that drove their personal relationships, and the passion that informed their art, sprang from the same psychic wellspring. This principle extends beyond the arts and sciences to spiritual development as well. Jung was fascinated by the alchemical texts of medieval Europe, recognizing in them symbolic representations of psychological transformation. The alchemist's quest to turn lead into gold paralleled the inner work of transforming base instincts into spiritual gold. Many mystical traditions explicitly address this connection between sexual energy and spiritual awakening. The tantric traditions of Hinduism and Buddhism, for instance, work directly with sexual energy as a means of spiritual transcendence. Jung saw these practices not as mere cultural curiosities, but as systematic approaches to the universal human challenge of energy transformation. The contemporary relevance of Jung's insights becomes even more apparent when we consider modern society's often troubled relationship with sexuality. We live in a culture simultaneously obsessed with and confused by sexual energy. Commercial interests exploit our sexual impulses to sell products, while many people struggle with addictive sexual behaviors or, conversely, with sexual repression and shame. Jung would view both extremes, compulsive expression and fearful repression, as failures to properly understand and channel libidinal energy. The psychological work he proposed offers a middle path, neither denying this fundamental aspect of our nature nor becoming consumed by it, but rather transforming it into something that serves our highest development and creative potential. Perhaps most fascinating is Jung's connection between this individual process of transformation and the broader concept of the collective unconscious. The symbols and archetypes through which libidinal energy expresses itself are not merely personal. They connect us to the shared psychological heritage of humanity. When we engage in this work of transformation, we are not merely addressing our individual psychology, but participating in the ongoing evolution of human consciousness. The great creators, innovators, and spiritual figures throughout history have served as channels through which this evolutionary energy flows, transforming not just their own lives but contributing to the development of collective human potential. Their legacies endure precisely because they tapped into something universal. The practical question naturally arises: how does one begin this process of transforming lustful energy into lasting legacy? Jung outlined several approaches, central among them being the process of active imagination, a method of engaging consciously with the unconscious mind through dialogue with its symbolic content. Unlike passive fantasy, active imagination involves the ego in conscious relationship with unconscious material, allowing libidinal energy to be gradually transformed through this interaction. This might take the form of artistic creation, journaling, meditation on symbolic images, or other practices that bridge conscious and unconscious aspects of the psyche. Another crucial element in this transformation is the integration of the anima, in men, or animus, in women, the unconscious feminine or masculine aspects of the personality. Jung observed that libidinal energy often becomes fixated on projections of these inner figures onto others, particularly romantic partners. By recognizing these projections and withdrawing them through conscious psychological work, one begins to integrate these contrasexual aspects of oneself. This integration is essential for the transformation of libidinal energy, as it allows the psyche to achieve greater wholeness and direct its energy more consciously. Many creative individuals report that their best work emerges from this inner marriage of masculine and feminine qualities. Dreams play a particularly important role in this process, as they often reveal both the current state of one's libidinal energy and potential pathways for its transformation. Jung considered dreams to be natural expressions of the unconscious, offering symbolic guidance for psychological development. By paying attention to sexual symbolism in dreams and exploring its deeper meaning rather than taking it literally, one can gain insight into how this energy is seeking expression in one's life. Dreams of flying, of encountering powerful animals, of discovering new rooms in a house, all may represent different aspects of libidinal energy seeking conscious integration and expression. The obstacle most commonly encountered in this work is what Jung called the shadow, the repressed, denied, or unacknowledged aspects of ourselves. Our culture's complicated relationship with sexuality has led many people to relegate significant portions of their sexual nature to the shadow, creating both psychological imbalance and blocked creative potential. The journey from lust to legacy necessarily involves shadow work, consciously encountering and integrating these rejected aspects of ourselves. This doesn't mean acting out every impulse, but rather acknowledging the full spectrum of our nature and finding appropriate channels for its expression. Many great works of art, literature, and even scientific discovery have emerged from this courageous engagement with shadow material. An essential distinction in Jung's approach is the difference between regression and transformation. When libidinal energy meets obstacles to its expression, it may either regress to more primitive forms or be transformed into higher expressions. The difference often lies in conscious awareness and intention. Without psychological understanding, blocked sexual energy typically manifests as neurotic symptoms, compulsive behaviors, or projection onto others. With consciousness, however, this same energy can fuel creative work, psychological development, and spiritual growth. This explains why periods of frustration or limitation can either destroy us or become the catalyst for our greatest achievements, depending on our psychological approach to the challenge. The journey toward transforming libidinal energy into legacy invariably involves encounters with what Jung called complexes, emotionally charged clusters of ideas and images that can either block energy transformation or, if consciously engaged, become sources of creative power. Sexual complexes in particular, often formed through early experiences, cultural conditioning, or traumatic events, can significantly influence how libidinal energy flows or becomes blocked within the psyche. Jung's approach was neither to ignore these complexes nor to remain trapped within them, but to bring them into consciousness where their energy could be redirected toward creative and individuating purposes. This process of conscious energy transformation relates directly to Jung's central concept of individuation, the lifelong psychological development toward wholeness and integration of all aspects of the personality. Jung saw sexuality not as an end in itself, but as a powerful energy in service to this larger process of becoming who we truly are. When libidinal energy is channeled into individuation, it fuels authentic self-expression, meaningful work, and contributions that align with one's deepest nature. The resultant legacy emerges not from egoic striving, but from the expression of something essential and unique within us that seeks manifestation through our lives and work. History reveals a fascinating pattern. Many individuals who leave the most significant legacies exhibit a quality Jung might have recognized as the successful integration of opposites within the psyche. They often combine seemingly contradictory traits: intellectual rigor with intuitive insight, disciplined focus with spontaneous creativity, personal ambition with transpersonal purpose. This integration allows them to draw upon the full spectrum of psychic energy, including the powerful current of libido, in service to their work. Leonardo da Vinci, Marie Curie, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, George O'Keeffe, these and countless others exemplify this integration, their legacies standing as testaments to what becomes possible when libidinal energy is fully harnessed and directed. The social dimension of this transformation cannot be overlooked. Jung recognized that healthy cultures provide pathways and symbols through which this alchemical process can occur collectively as well as individually. Traditional societies often featured initiation rites, symbolic systems, and cultural practices that helped channel and transform sexual energy throughout the life cycle. Modern society, having largely abandoned these traditions, offers few such pathways, leaving individuals to navigate this territory without maps or guides. This explains why many who successfully transform lustful energy into legacy often create their own disciplines, practices, and symbolic frameworks, essentially building their own alchemical vessels for this transformation. What Jung's psychology ultimately offers is a radical reframing of sexual energy, not as something to be indulged mindlessly or repressed fearfully, but as the vital current of life itself seeking ever higher forms of expression. When understood and approached with consciousness, this energy becomes the driving force behind not just reproduction but creation in all its forms: artistic, intellectual, cultural, and spiritual. The path from lust to legacy isn't about transcending our human nature. It's about fulfilling it at the highest level. In Jung's view, our sexual nature, properly understood and integrated, doesn't separate us from our highest potential. It is the very energy that makes that potential achievable. The great figures who have left lasting legacies didn't succeed despite their passionate nature, but because they found ways to channel that passion into contributions of enduring value. As we draw our exploration to a close, we can now appreciate the profound implications of Jung's insights into the transformation of libidinal energy. What began as an investigation into a specific aspect of analytical psychology has revealed itself as nothing less than a roadmap for human fulfillment and creative achievement. Jung's understanding offers us a way to reconcile what modern culture often presents as irreconcilable opposites: our primal nature and our highest aspirations, our physical desires and our spiritual longings, our individual needs and our contribution to collective human development. The journey from lust to legacy isn't about denying or transcending our humanity. It's about embracing it fully and directing its tremendous energy toward its highest expression. This perspective invites us to reconsider not just our understanding of sexuality, but our approach to creative work, personal development, and the legacy we hope to leave. How might your life change if you began to view your passionate nature not as something separate from your highest calling, but as the very fuel for it? What if the energy you've perhaps struggled with, repressed, or expressed unconsciously could become the wellspring of your greatest contributions? Jung's psychology suggests that the very aspects of ourselves we've been conditioned to view as obstacles might, with proper understanding and integration, become our greatest resources. This doesn't mean abandoning discernment or ethical considerations. Quite the opposite. It means bringing greater consciousness to this fundamental aspect of our nature, so that it can serve rather than subvert our deepest values and aspirations. The historical examples we've explored demonstrate that this transformation is not merely theoretical, but practically achievable. From scientists to artists, from spiritual leaders to social innovators, those who have left the most significant legacies have often been those who found ways to channel their passionate nature most effectively. They didn't achieve greatness by diminishing their humanity, but by expressing it more fully and consciously than others. Their examples invite us to consider what might be possible in our own lives if we approached this aspect of our nature with greater understanding, acceptance, and intentionality. The alchemical transformation of libidinal energy into creative force and lasting legacy represents not just psychological theory, but a practical pathway to fulfillment and contribution. What makes this journey both challenging and rewarding is that it must be undertaken individually, in accordance with each person's unique nature and calling. There is no standard formula for transforming lustful energy into legacy. The process must honor the particular configuration of your psyche, your gifts, your wounds, and your purpose. This is why Jung emphasized the importance of individuation, the process of becoming ever more fully yourself through the integration of all aspects of your personality. Your legacy will not be a carbon copy of anyone else's, but an authentic expression of your unique essence. The transformation of libidinal energy plays a crucial role in this process, providing the vital force that makes genuine self-expression possible. Remember that the word legacy comes from the Latin legatus, meaning one who is sent. When we successfully transform our primal energy into lasting contribution, we become messengers carrying something of value from the depths of the unconscious into conscious reality, from the realm of potential into the world of manifestation. Jung might say that through this process, we become vessels through which the collective unconscious expresses itself in new and evolving forms. This is perhaps the deepest meaning of the journey from lust to legacy, that our most personal energy, when properly transformed, connects us to something transpersonal, allowing us to participate consciously in the ongoing creative unfolding of human possibility. What will you create with this powerful energy that flows through you? What message are you being sent to deliver? What legacy awaits your conscious participation in its creation? If this exploration has resonated with you, I invite you to continue the journey by subscribing to this channel, where we regularly dive deep into Jung's psychology and its practical applications for creative achievement, personal fulfillment, and spiritual development. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear about your own experiences with transforming energy into creative output or lasting contribution. And if you found value in today's exploration, please consider liking this video and sharing it with others who might benefit from these insights. The work of conscious transformation is both deeply personal and inherently communal. In sharing our journeys, we create pathways that others may follow toward their own authentic expression and contribution. Until next time, may you find powerful and meaningful ways to channel your vital energy into creations of lasting significance.